Been listening to defense attorney John Schornhorn explain why he thinks this trial, at least processes leading up to it, were not fair, his plans to appeal, and him also saying that Michelle Troconis will be taken to prison today. She will be unable to meet the bond, at least for now. There's more financial assets that need to be put up, so at least for the next few days, she will likely be going to York prison, is what he said, and also what you said. I want to just bring in our panel here because I know both of you were listening to all of this and have some different perspectives as a state police detective, as a defense attorney. So, Lieutenant Foley, I'll let you go first.
Look at. He's, like Walt says, he's right. And as a defense attorney, that's what he's supposed to say. And Walt would agree that he's right. To me, I translated into a guilty person should probably never go in there and talk. But an innocent person, you have nothing to hide, go in there. He talks about handing over the cell phone. Keep the cell phone. Don't give it to the cops. Set it on fire and throw it in the river. We don't care. Kimball would have got those records anyways through a search warrant through the cell phone companies and had them. So, yes, he probably shouldn't have handed the phone over, but it didn't matter. Those detectives would have got that information anyways from her. The fact that she did talk did not help her anymore. Didn't help her, I don't believe, obviously, and it hurt her. But, again, a guilty person, yeah, maybe you shouldn't talk unless your ego thinks you can get yourself out of it. An innocent person, yeah, you should try to go in there and clear your name. In today's day and age, with so much data, so much everything, so hard to sit there and watch the family of the victim, I'm sorry, of the accused, cry. Look at that. They basically lost a family member with that guilty verdict, and it's hard for them. And you wonder, how can the family sit in that courtroom and see all that evidence, the same stuff the jury saw, and then process it completely different to still think their family member's innocent? It just goes to show you how much love and emotion can play in on how you actually see facts there. But for me, I love seeing the defense attorney say stuff like that. Walt and I were, actually, looking at each other, professionally laughing about, our differences in opinion on it. So, absolutely, Walt, now you give your say on that.
Walter Hussey, you've represented plenty of people accused of murder, and what do you have to say with what was just uttered that basically shows people should never talk to police?
I get the last say here.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, so I say in this case, I think John Schornhorn's 100% correct. Let's imagine for a second she never spoke to the police. There was never any tape whatsoever. So therefore, the state would have never been able to play anything that she said in that courtroom. And to me, and to the state, and it seems like to everyone that watched this, that's what convicted her. The things, I mean, there were other things, of course, Brian, but that was, if you looked at the closing of Mr. McGinnis, right? He pounded her on all the inconsistencies. So if you took all that away, what would he have? Not much. So I think Attorney Schornhorn's right. So I know where you're going with this. You're like, okay, so you're encouraging people not to cooperate with the police. In this case, it didn't help her. If you were in the same situation, my advice would be don't cooperate. And he's right, unless there's some sort of agreement in advance, right? In this case, it might have made some sense, and I don't know what happened. You might know more about that than I do, but if they said to her, look, Michelle, we're going to give you immunity. Tell us what happened. Then by all means, tell.
They were probably telling her, look, we're looking to clear you. We want to identify this. We're looking to clear you out of this. Please come in and help us with that. So, again, very strategic. Exactly what Walter said. I can't disagree with Walter. If I were in trouble and I needed a defense attorney, I want him to tell me exactly that. But at the same time, if I were completely innocent and confident of that, nothing could get in my way to tell law enforcement exactly what I was doing. So it's very case specific.
Okay, so we do have our reporters outside court, but before I go there, I just want to bring up one of the parts where the inconsistency where really stuck out was one moment she's saying that she showered with him, was intimate with him, and then later on, okay, I never saw him. So those seem like big inconsistencies. In general, are you allowed to have some inconsistencies? Because a reasonable person could remember things wrong.
Absolutely, but that's, again, a big thing to really go in there and have an inconsistency about, isn't it? Unless you got the days mixed up, and again, and Walt's right, that type of inconsistency is an indication of guilt in a jury's eyes. Go ahead, Walt.
I would agree, but there's times, Brian, and I know in your career, and I've seen people interviewed that you've interviewed, ultimately you're going to agree that they came to the truth. I mean, most people aren't going to be truthful when they start an interview process. Would that be fair to say?
Yep.
And they're lying in the beginning, but at some point they're going to come to ahead, right? You're going to say, okay, we finally got to the truth, whatever that may be. In this case, she said, I got to that point, and that was the truth. You beg to differ.
Yeah, it's just, what do you choose to believe in those scenarios? And we'll never know. I guess we'll never know. We can only speculate.
Okay, well, certainly an emotional day outside of court. I want to go out to our reporters right now, and I believe we're going to go to Cassidy Williams first, who has been outside the back of the courthouse. We just learned that Michelle Troconis, her own attorney, says she will not have the resources to post bond, so she will go to prison.
And Kara, within about a half hour, we saw a Marshall's van pull up and enter the gate here behind me. We just learned there from the defense attorney that Michelle Troconis will not be able to make bail, that she will be taken to jail today. So it's possible that she will be leaving here shortly to head to a jail. We are standing by in case that happens, as this is often where the marshals come to transport suspects to and from jail from the courthouse. Earlier, we saw some people leaving the employee parking lot that we believe may have been the jurors. They did not stop to talk to anyone. They were escorted by marshals. We are standing by behind the courthouse in case anything happens, continuing to monitor the situation.
And Cassidy, I just want to bring up something that John Schoenhorn said, and the family said, that the media would have a negative influence on this case. But if you can talk about, we have not even yet seen these jurors. They are not allowed to watch any media. Sure, I don't know that there are that many people who haven't heard of this case, but just to give the viewers a perspective, you have not been able to have any access to the jury at all. Is that correct?
No, the judge has been very clear at the end of every day at the end of every day of deliberations, telling jurors to go home, to not talk, not even just don't talk to the media, but don't even talk to their loved ones about this case. They are only supposed to talk amongst the jury when they are deliberating, not even during lunch. Now, once the case is over, jurors, if they so choose, they are allowed to speak to the media if they want to. But again, they've been allowed to park in kind of a separate parking lot, and it appears most left without taking that opportunity.
Yes, and so we'll see what happens in the days to come and if there are any jurors that speak out. Cassidy, thank you so much for being with us. I want to go to our panel now because we've got Lieutenant Foley and Defense Attorney Hussey, and I know you both have a lot to say about that. We're hearing that she doesn't have the money yet to bond out, but both of you want to enlighten us on the process that you believe is going to happen.
Yeah, Walt can explain it better than I, but just my sense, just by what they were saying, they're forming up to get her out. The bonds people have to get their stuff in order. Go ahead, Walt, and explain what's next.
No, you're right. So what's going to have to happen? They're taking a risk here, so they have to assess that. So they have underwriters, the bonds companies, and they have to report to whoever they report to and say, here's the risk, here's the analysis, and then they're going to look for some sort of collateral. So
a house, a car.
Exactly. So they're going to have to post something that has equity, a lot of equity, and plus they're going to have to come up with the cash to assume that risk. That's a big risk to take.
But fair to say, her attorney saying she's not going home today, I guess because it takes longer.
She could.
Okay.
It all depends how quickly that process can be expedited. So that's between whoever's writing the bond. It could be more than one company, too. So they have to get together and make an analysis and come up to an agreement.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. John Schoenhorn has said that he doesn't expect her to be able to get out at least for a few days, but that her daughter has been notified and that Michelle is not doing well. His words that she is devastated. We saw her family crying, insisting that she is innocent and that they don't know what's happened to Jennifer, that they all love Jennifer's children, they love their sister and their daughter Michelle, and that they believe this has been a travesty of justice and they will appeal.